I never imagined I'd be the villain in my own family's story. For most of my life, I played the role everyone expected of me: quiet, supportive, never in the way. I was a nurse for 37 years, a wife for 32, a mother, a grandmother, a reliable set of hands, and a dependable heart. I never asked for applause. I just showed up every birthday, every scraped knee, every heartbreak, especially for Emily. Emily was my first grandchild, and I adored her. I rocked her to sleep when colic kept her parents up, sewed her Halloween costumes by hand, and sat through every single dance recital, even the ones where she forgot the steps. When she got older and her heart was broken by boys who didn't know what to do with her brilliance, she crawled into my lap like she was 5 again, and I held her until she stopped shaking. So when she got engaged, I offered, no, insisted on covering the cost of her bridal shower. It was my gift. I dipped into my retirement savings without hesitation. A vineyard-style venue nestled in the Virginia foothills, floral arches brought in from Savannah, monogrammed napkins, every detail exactly how she wanted. But the week before the shower, I was accidentally included in a group text. They were finalizing plans. I scrolled through the messages, smiling to myself, until I read the line that took the air out of my lungs. Can we make sure Grandma doesn't show up in one of her usual Kohl's outfits? This vibe is luxury, not basic. There were laughing emojis. Then someone else, probably one of Emily's sorority sisters, added, "Ugh, yes, she gives cafeteria lady energy." And then the one that truly shattered something inside me. "Let's just tell her we're keeping it small. She'll understand." That one was from my daughter, Susan. I sat at the kitchen table for what felt like hours, staring at the screen, waiting for the words to unhurt me, waiting for someone in the thread to say, "That's not fair, she's doing everything for us." But no one did. The tea kettle screamed behind me. I hadn't even realized I'd put it on. I didn't cry, not then. Instead, I smiled. That strange, hollow kind of smile you give when something inside you breaks clean through. That night, I sent one final message in the group. "Wishing you all the best, darling. Hope it's everything you dreamed." Then I called the venue and canceled the reservation. No reschedule, no refund needed. I took the entire balance and donated it to a women's shelter across town, anonymously, in honor of every woman who'd ever been called too basic to belong. I didn't tell anyone. I just packed the unused party favors into a box marked donation, poured myself a cup of tea, and sat in the stillness of my kitchen, alone, but not defeated. If you've ever been dismissed, overlooked, or made to feel invisible by your own family, this story is for you. Hit subscribe, like, and share this with someone who needs to remember their worth. In the days after I canceled the shower, I didn't hear from anyone. Not Emily, not Susan, not even a vague thanks or what happened. Just silence. You'd think that would have hurt most. But what stung deeper was how little I was surprised. So I began writing, not out of anger, but out of need. I pulled out an old leather journal and started scribbling longhand page after page about the marriage, the betrayal, the sacrifices no one ever asked for, but always expected. The things I'd swallowed down so my children could have a normal life. The things I'd buried to protect everyone else's comfort. It was like uncorking a bottle I didn't know had been sealed tight for decades. Every night I poured myself a cup of chamomile tea and poured my soul onto the page. And then one Thursday afternoon, cloudy skies, a soft breeze drifting through the kitchen window, came a knock at the door. I assumed it was Martha from across the street. She always brought over cobbler when she sensed something was off. But it wasn't Martha. It was a young woman. Late 20s, maybe early 30s, shoulder-length curls, dusty backpack, kind eyes. "Mrs. Lewis?" she asked gently. "Yes," I replied, keeping the screen door between us. Age had taught me caution. "My name's Rachel. I'm filming a documentary about women like you." I blinked. "Women like me?" She flushed, nervously adjusting her camera bag. "I mean, older women, women over 60 who've been, well, forgotten, by their families, by society, by the stories we tell. I was given your name by someone at the Hope Haven Women's Shelter." The name stopped me cold. "That's a long way from here," I said carefully. "Yes, but she said you changed her life. Said you gave her strength when no one else did." "Who was she?" "Her name's Lisa Thompson." I remembered Lisa, young, bruised, terrified. She came into the shelter with a toddler on her hip and eyes that hadn't slept in weeks. I'd held her hand that night and whispered, "You are not broken. You are brave." And then she was gone. I opened the door. "Come in, Rachel." We sat at my kitchen table, the floral vinyl tablecloth still a little sticky from the morning's jam. She didn't push, just listened. Her recorder stayed off at first. She wanted to know me, not just my pain. Over the next few days, Rachel stayed in my guest room. She filmed our conversations in the garden, on the porch, and in the kitchen where I'd once baked birthday cakes no one remembered. Slowly, she helped me excavate the pieces of myself I thought had been lost forever. I found old dreams buried in drawers, poetry I'd written in my 20s tucked between recipe cards. Letters from friends I'd stopped writing back to when my husband said they were too emotional. I found photos of me in sundresses, barefoot and laughing beside a red Chevy pickup, the version of Margaret that once danced without apology. Rachel helped me see that woman again. One night, as we sipped tea and listened to Billie Holiday on the radio, she turned to me with a spark in her eye. "I have an idea." "Go on." "I want to host a dinner," she said, "a tribute dinner. We'll invite your family and say it's for the documentary, celebrating the Lewis family legacy. They'll come for the cameras." I stared at her, my heart starting to pound. "And then?" I asked. "Then you speak, not as their mother or grandmother, but as Margaret, the woman they stopped seeing." My throat tightened. Part of me wanted to retreat, to shrink back into the quiet I knew too well. But another part, the one that had started writing in the journal, the one that had canceled the bridal shower with dignity, stood up inside me. I nodded slowly. "Let's do it." Rachel grinned, her whole face lighting up. And just like that, the plan began. She scouted a location, an old historic inn just outside town. She ordered printed invitations with gold-foiled lettering. She even hired a photographer to document the night. But most importantly, she gave me something I hadn't had in years: a voice. For the first time in a very long time, I wasn't just writing in the margins of other people's lives. I was getting ready to speak my own story aloud, uncut, unpolished, and finally, completely mine. And something in me knew, the real dinner wasn't just for them. It was for me. The inn was nestled beneath towering oak trees, the kind that remember things. Rachel had chosen it for the intimacy, the soft lighting, the velvet drapes, the scent of old wood and lavender that clung to the hallways like memory. Inside, a long mahogany table stretched across the room, covered in crisp white linen and flickering candlelight. Gold place cards bore each guest's name. The Lewis family legacy, a celebration, was printed in elegant script on the program. It was perfect, and it was a lie. They arrived in pairs, dressed to impress. Susan walked in first, immaculate as always, pearls, scarf, a smile that was more teeth than warmth. Her husband trailed behind her, already half checked out. Then came Emily, radiant and stylish in a blush-toned dress, arm in arm with her fiancé. She glanced around and blinked. "Wait, this isn't a restaurant?" Rachel, poised near her camera, answered smoothly. "We reserved this space privately for the documentary, a tribute to the Lewis family matriarch." Emily looked caught off guard but recovered quickly. "Oh, how lovely," Susan said, adjusting her blazer and slipping easily into host mode. "We're honored, of course. Right, Emily?" Emily smiled, too wide. "Of course." My two sons arrived shortly after, one with his second wife, the other alone and distracted. Cousins trickled in, smiling, laughing, none of them suspecting what the night would become. We ate, we chatted, we danced across small talk like pros. Susan leaned into every camera angle. Emily checked her reflection in her spoon. No one asked how I'd been. Then Rachel gave me the signal, a small nod barely there. I stood. My heart hammered so loudly I wondered if the camera would catch it. I touched the back of my chair for grounding, then looked at the faces around the table, my family, my blood, my ghostwriters. "I want to thank you all for coming tonight," I began, my voice thinner than I wanted. "This evening means a great deal to me because for the first time in a long time, I get to speak not as someone's mother or grandmother, but simply as me." A few polite nods. My hands trembled. I steadied them on the linen. For decades, I gave everything I had to this family. I showed up. I paid bills. I held hands through heartbreak. I stayed quiet when I should have screamed. I stitched the fabric of this family together while it frayed behind closed doors. Emily looked uneasy. Susan's smile froze. And then, I read a message I was never meant to see. One that called me basic, that mocked my clothes, That suggested I not be invited to the bridal shower I paid for. Silence. A dropped fork clattered somewhere down the table. I didn't cancel the shower out of spite. I canceled it because it opened my eyes. I realized how invisible I'd become, not just at that table, but in this family. Susan spoke first, voice light and brittle. "Mom, we didn't mean—" "I'm not finished," I said. The room stilled. I stayed married to a man who cheated, lied, and gaslit me into believing I was too fragile to be alone. I kept his secret so you wouldn't lose your father. I had surgery once and none of you called me for 5 days. A sharp inhale came from one of my sons. Emily stared down at her lap. "I brought evidence tonight," I continued. Rachel handed me a manila folder. Letters, photos, copies of the financial statements from the year your father emptied our joint account and said it was just a misunderstanding. I am not saying this to shame you. I'm saying it to free myself. I looked at each of them, and for the first time in years, they looked back, really looked. Not at the woman who made casseroles or mailed birthday cards, but at me, a woman who had carried it all for far too long. Emily's voice cracked. "Grandma, I didn't know." "I believe you," I said gently, "but now you do." The dinner ended quietly after that. No toasts, no selfies, just silence, heavy and sharp like a room finally telling the truth. A few days later, Rachel knocked on my bedroom door holding a letter. "I went to the county archive," she said, "and found something." Inside the envelope was a copy of my mother's will, dated, signed, legal. In it, she'd left me the family farmhouse, the one I was raised in, the one I thought I'd lost. I remembered finding that letter years ago after her funeral, tucked between the pages of her Bible. I gave it to my husband at the time. He told me it wouldn't hold up in court and not to fight it. Turns out he never filed it. He buried it. The land, the home, the legacy was mine all along. I called the lawyer the next morning. The court case took weeks, but in the end, I stood before the judge, looked him in the eye and said, "I'm not invisible anymore. I won. I got the farmhouse." But more than that, I reclaimed my voice. The farmhouse was in worse shape than I remembered. Paint peeling, porch steps sinking, weeds swallowing the garden beds, but to me it felt holy, sacred, like something waiting to exhale. It didn't take long to decide what I'd do with it. I called it the Ribbon House, a space for women like me, women who had been silenced, discarded, underestimated. Women rebuilding after betrayal, after loss, after years of swallowing their own voice. The old barn became the workshop space. The sunroom turned into a library. Every room whispered, "You belong here." Neighbors helped. Old friends brought casseroles. Local carpenters donated labor. And then, one afternoon, Emily showed up at the front gate. No makeup, no airs, just herself. Her eyes were glassy. "Grandma," she said softly, "I didn't understand. But I do now. I'm sorry." She handed me a gold frame. Inside was a printed screenshot of that awful group message, but she had written across it in marker, "You're not basic, you're the foundation." My hands trembled as I hugged her. From then on, she stayed, helped with grant applications, swept floors, listened, learned. Rachel's documentary, Basic No More, was finished by spring. It premiered at a small theater in Atlanta and then spread screenings, film festivals, standing ovations. At one event, a silver-haired woman stood during the Q&A, her hands shaking. "I haven't spoken to my daughter in 20 years, she said, "but tonight, I think I will." I felt something shift inside me then, a ripple moving outward, and still, life had one more secret for me. A letter arrived, handwritten in soft, slanted script. "My name is Lillian. I believe I'm your sister. They told me you died at birth. I just saw your face in a magazine, and I knew. A twin, hidden, lost, found. When we met, it was like looking into a mirror that knew how to love me back. We spent mornings on the porch trading stories we never got to live together. She tied ribbons too, one for every year we lost. Then, on my 72nd birthday, surrounded by women I'd helped and the family I'd rebuilt, I walked to the old oak tree. In my hand, one final ribbon, crimson red, the color of fire and renewal. I tied it gently, the silk fluttering in the breeze. Margaret Lewis, survivor, matriarch, free. And as laughter rose behind me and the wind hummed through the branches, I whispered, "I was never too basic. I was just too much woman for people who couldn't see me. But now they do." Thank you for listening to my story. If you felt seen in these words, know you're not alone. Like, comment, and share this with someone who needs to hear. It's never too late to be heard.